What do you want to tell people who will not have lived through this experience?
Oh my God.
That's a tough one.
That this is one of those, gosh, this will be interesting. Yeah, in 10 or 15 years.
Like I'm a grandma and I'm asked to speak at someone's classroom or something. Like, what do I want them to know about this?
There's a generation that's not experiencing what it is we're experiencing. So maybe like the 3-year-olds are right now.
Wow, like I think if it had an end, that would be a little bit easier to answer, but we're kind of in the middle of it right now. But
I have to think for a second about that.
People are kind of in different places. Right now, that this is something that was not expected, or at least not expected by just commoners, just like me. I mean,
I think that I would say, if you don't think this could happen again, it can.
I would want them to be students of history.
If you don't think that a spreadable infectious virus could totally affect your plans for your life.
I like I said, I'm always on Twitter and I'm searching on Twitter, and apparently, it's been 10 years in the making. I don't know, but this is something families did not expect to happen.
Your goals, your jobs that are lined up, your paid gigs that you have coming through the door, that you could be interrupted in life. If you don't think that's possible for you right now in this positioning of life that you have, be aware that it can all stop.
For sure, because if we don't understand it, we're doomed to repeat it. It's sort of a trite sort of statement these days, but I think it's so true.
I certainly don't believe, as some Christians have proffered, that this is sort of come from God, and this is the wrath of God, and or anything like that. It's just, it doesn't fit in with my conception of who God is. But I think there is some truth in that this virus has come to teach us something, and that there can be some good from it.
The virus itself could be a blessing because it's not as deadly as other viruses could be. And it's a wake-up call for the world to get more prepared for something like this that might evolve.
It seems that many of us, those in my tradition, we would say, those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, would see that this pandemic has made real and tangible the inequities that exist in our society, that people who have been relegated to the margins have been screaming about for centuries.
Now that many people are suffering, and we need to try our best to have a better world. And better world is more equity.
Right, and how we realized the global nature of community, that peoples across the world are one and the same. And there's no distinction, whether, racially, by gender, by income class.
And now that there is a degree to which the virus is indiscriminate.
This virus doesn't discriminate.
That more people, people outside the margins, people within the lines are now seeing the disparities in healthcare, are seeing how illness impacts one's ability to earn, to support their families, to care for themselves, how solid healthcare and a safe place to live and clean water can literally be the line between life and death, the difference between life and death.
Sadly, the virus doesn't discriminate, but certainly care for those who get the virus does discriminate.
This feels like one of those moments where we're forced to look at the mirror.
Like, we need to take care of the least of us. if all of us want to move forward successfully.
The earth has been groaning for ever, and this is a place, a time on our trajectory where we collectively as a society are forced to stop and see the magnitude of our greed.
If CEOs can be making billions of dollars, if Jeff Bezos can make $8 million an hour because he's a billionaire and the math works like he makes $8 million an hour. If he can make $1 million an hour, then everyone in his companies should be making livable wage with full benefits. There's just no reason for one person to make $8 million an hour and to be a billionaire. I'm not against capitalism 1,000%. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be able to live comfortable lives, but how many yachts do we need? How many houses does one person have? Why should people be able to own islands? Like, let's make sure that everybody can eat. Let's make sure that everyone can pay for their rent and kids' school fees on one full-time job. Otherwise, we haven't learned anything from this pandemic, and that'll be really sad.
Of our lack of compassion.
It's so sad that the number one people dying from this virus are Black people, African Americans. We know that there's reasons, and the healthcare disparities are factual. There's evidence-based knowledge that shows us why African Americans don't have the same access to health, don't have the same access to healthy foods, don't suffer from cardiac arrest and suffer from diabetes and other things at higher rates than other Americans.
And then also with that for some people, new knowledge to decidedly do something different.
And so we are, if anything, seeing the strength of the tensions and the injustice that is so prevalent in our world today.
We all need to take care of our community.
So to really be intentional about helping their neighbor, whether it's if you're going shopping for food and other essentials, that you pick up something for your elderly neighbor.
We tend in this country, we tend to think in very federal terms, that our government, our military, it's all about what's happening up here in the news. And it couldn't be less true. I mean, what is true is that what is happening is the myriad of things that are happening in local communities all over this country, where people like you and me are doing things in our neighborhood or in our condo board
people are sending food to their elderly parents or younger sibling, other family members, people who they know who live away from them, but know that they're not in a means, at a place where they can take care of themselves and to the same degree.
Those are the things that I think it's so easy to lose sight of. That someone else is going to take care of all those for me and let me know if there's something I need to know. And I think we are learning now that a democracy only works if the people in the democracy invest themselves in it.
We all need to be really engaged citizens, that everyone should vote.
Which means at the local level. I'm a federal employee, so I spend my life at the federal level, but I also know, having been in Iraq and Afghanistan, the things that matter are always the things that happen in local places. Those are the things that really directly affect people's lives. And I don't know, I think in a lot of ways, Americans have been sort of blinded to that, and now they're being reminded that there's a responsibility that goes along with being a citizen, and
it's a joint effort. And I don't know why in America we feel like it's me instead of recognizing the collective.
And I would only hope, although I have no hope for Trump, and I certainly have no hope for Bolsonaro or the like in Brazil, But my own president, Cyril Ramaphosa, I've been really impressed by. In his opening speech, he mentioned care for those who are experiencing homeless when he announced the first lockdown in South Africa. It's a different sensibility. When you hear the New Zealand Prime Minister speak about the children having the Easter Bunny at Easter and that the Easter Bunny is not on lockdown. Just those very normal things. And
everyone should demand that we have leadership at the highest levels of our government that respects facts and science and math and research.
I think of it by comparing. I lived in Germany for many years, and I was born there. And I look at how Angela Merkel, who was on her way out previously, politically, she was being sort of, she wasn't her country's most favorite politician anymore, and now she's got 80%, right, satisfaction rate, and why is that? And it's because since the very beginning, she's focused on facts. She's focused on reinforcing the scientific process to arrive at knowledge
that respects expert knowledge,
and then to use the existing communications in that particular country to inform the people.
And that we make sure that America is always run by capable individuals that are well qualified to help us keep this ship floating, because otherwise it'll sink real fast.
So you can see the difference in how their country is doing at the moment than our country.
And unfortunately, we are, I think, 700,000 people sick at the moment, and that's the ones that we know, because I'm sure that number is at least double, because no one can get tested unless you're on your deathbed right now. So to know that we have some 50,000 Americans that have died from this virus, who were living good lives yesterday and last week and a month ago.
Coronavirus, COVID-19, has really made people think about their own mortality, like never before. We always have known that, we could die at any point, but this has really been an eye-opener that it really could be at any point. It could be anyone in the family. So this period in time has been really, really scary. And it's really hard to understand that it's not just us in our little bubble, that it extends to the entire world. And that in itself makes it even scarier.
But anyway, I'm going over and over. But the most important thing to say is, yes, I think to say to people in the future, just the value of human community.
We all need to take care of our community.
I don't know what else to tell them, Melissa.
And I think there is big things happen time to time. And we need to be ready and need to be strong to face that now and try to be better.
I think we're thinking about how to remake our lives. What in this. So some things we will have had to lay down because time just would not, permit. And so when we come to the other side of the curve, what has to stay here? And what do we see that is really at the core, that is important to sustain life, to build community. I would say from a personal space, to honor God.
This is a lot of things to do, and we need to remember that we are not alone. What happened with one happened to everybody. And I think the big thing is solidarity, to see other people, see the animals. We talk about One Health and environmental, the planet. We need to see, we need to think integrated and think that we are not alone, and what one do reflects in the life of everybody.
I think it's one of those cataclysmic historic events that reshape society in completely unpredictable ways.
And if there's good that it can teach us, and if there's good that I hope to tell in years to come, is how communities have come together.
But I think the message I would leave with my sons and daughters and grandkids is the importance of staying connected locally to community. That's, I think, the lesson that's being learned all across this country.